If you are getting ready to play in your first sealed event, congratulations. You're about to have a lot of fun playing Wonders of the First in the sealed deck format. That's where you get one play bundle and you get 6 packs and you have to build a deck with just that. Now, I've done 2 videos so far to help you out. They'll be linked down below where we go over the sealed format in general, as well as the deck registration process you can expect. If you go in cold, you may not realize just how intensive and how many procedures and rules you have to follow just to get your deck set up at the beginning. So I wanted you to be prepared for that. But in this video, I'm going to go over some of the mistakes that I made in my first sealed tournament, some rules that I was unclear of, and rules that honestly lost me the game. I want you to learn from my mistakes. My grandpa used to say, you either win or you learn. And that weekend, I learned a lot. So I want you to learn from my mistakes. And by the way, if we haven't met, howdy, howdy. My name is American Texan. I love Wonders of the First, and I love creating content to help more people not just find the game, but also play the game, enjoy the game much more. But let's jump into Tabletop Simulator and let's go over some of the situations that I found myself in, walk through the rules that I misunderstood, what you need to know, so that way you can have the best time of your life playing Wonders of the First sealed and don't make the same mistakes that I did. So here we are in Tabletop Simulator, and I just loaded up some of the situations that I found myself in. So the first situation was actually a misruling from the judge, and that's going to happen. You can't be upset about that. There are going to be misrulings because the judge is judging, who knows how many, 15, 30 games, 30 players. So there's going to be happenstances, but I want to make sure you're clear on this because it was just an oversight on me, my opponent, and the judge. And that comes down to Death Strikes. Hey, real quick, Editor Texan here. Forgot to talk about what Death Strike is. Death Strike is the ability that if you go into battle and a wonder has Death Strike, if you are tying or win the battle, at the end of the battle, you can destroy a wonder that's in the opponent's realm. So if you go in with a Death Strike ability and you go 6-6 or 7-6, since you have Death Strike, you can take out one of the wonders across the realm. Now, the situation I'm about to share with you is a little bit more of a unique situation with Death Strike, but it's very important. I wanted to make sure you understood the Death Strike keyword. So back to it. So in this example, I'm winning here with Death Strike. I have a Chained Crow with Death Strike and flying. He's equipped with the Staff of Eldritch Tribesman, which gives him +2. And then I've got a Remains of Barnabas in the lane that gives me 4 power. However, my opponent here has Sir Reynard, which is 3 power, but comes with the Protector counter. Now, the Protector counter protects the stone from being seized, okay? So they have the stone. I want to attack here with the stone. Here's what you need to know. Death Strike activates on, it's an on-battle ability. It activates on battle, but it resolves after the stone is seized. So the way that this will work, even though I am winning in this lane and Death Strike will fire off and kill Reynard, the way it works is I declare the battle, right? Any on attack, on defense, on battle, all those things will activate. But Death Strike is after seizing the stone is resolved. So the way that I picture it is on attack, on defense, on battle, right? And then Death Strike is basically there in the ether. This Sir Reynard is going to die. However, stone resolution happens first. So it's the battle stuff. That's the technical term, right? The battle stuff. Then stone resolution, okay? So at this point, I would take the stone. However, the Protector counter comes off instead, right? The Protector counter is removed instead of the stone getting taken. So the Protector counter comes off first, all right? Then, after battle, stuff resolves. And that's where Death Strike kills Sir Reynard. The idea that I was hoping was I attack with Death Strike, kill Sir Reynard, which would take the Protector counter, and then I should be able to take the stone. That's not how Death Strike works, okay? So Death Strike is initiated on battle, but it resolves after the battle, okay? So if you're in this situation with Death Strike, a lot of folks were playing Death Strike at our seal. That was just the luck of the draw. If there is a Protector counter, you still, even if you're winning, you do not get the stone, okay? So if you are in this situation, you attack with Death Strike, they got a Protector counter, Death Strike is activated, but the Protector counter or the stone gets seized first, and then this is destroyed. So, for example, if it did not have a Protector counter, okay, then I would take the stone, but then Sir Reynard would get destroyed. So I just want you to be aware of the order of operations for Death Strike in this case. So the important thing to remember is battle stuff, Death Strike is initiated, but the stone is resolved first, then Death Strike happens. Basically, the way to think about it is Death Strike does not lower the power of the realm, okay? The battle is going to happen regardless at the current power. All right, let's move on to another situation here. In this situation, the opponent fought or battled and took the stone in realm 2. Okay, so right now they're the first player, because in Wonders of the First, when you seize a stone, you become the first player, meaning you take the first action on the next turn. Okay, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure in the next round I go first. I wanted to go first, but I obviously can't win here because they got 3 power and I don't even have a Wonder in there. Okay, so I'm sitting here with 2 power. They have 1 power, but I do have the stone. Okay. Now, what I tried to do was I used my last action to attack, thinking that the last person to attack is the one who becomes the first player. But no, if they're first player here and I have the stone, if they're first player because they attacked and won in realm 2, okay, and I go last and I'm attacking in realm 3 where I already have the stone, that does not move the first player token. Okay, the first player token stays with the person who last seized a stone. So if you attack where you hold a stone, you do not become, if you attack and win where you hold the stone, you do not become the first player. So if you are thinking about, well, how do I go first in the next round? The answer is taking a stone, not just attacking where you're already winning. To become first player, you have to seize a stone. It can come from the other player, it can come from the middle, but you have to seize it, which means take control. This next tip is just a reminder to take your time and read cards, especially cards you have not seen a lot. Just in the games that I've played in the last 6 months, I haven't seen Carno Titan Ravager a lot, and I totally misread the card because I thought it said on battle, move target Wonder in this realm to an adjacent realm. And the situation was, this isn't the exact situation, but I had 6 power with Death Strike. He had 5 with Carno Titan Ravager, so I was planning to attack and get the stone and fly out. But since he says on battle, move target Wonder or item, he ended up moving my Staff of Eldritch Tribesmen out of the realm. So now I only had 4 power here. I could not win the stone, and I was not able to Death Strike. So I ended up losing that game because I just miscalculated it. We were running down on time, and I didn't understand the card well enough. So if you're new here, you've got the challenge of having to read and understand what every card does. But if you've been playing for a while, you also have the risk of just you've been playing the wrong rules or you've been misunderstanding the card a lot. Another example of a card that I was playing wrong is Selira Shadowstalker. So this was a game that I spectated, and it says, Selira says, whenever you seize a stone, this gets +5 this round. Then destroy target Wonder with power less than or equal to the number of stones you control. So in this example, someone attacked, won the stone with Selira, and now had 2 stones. However, the opponent did not have any wonders with less than 2 or less power. Okay. And so what happened is Selira has to target someone. It doesn't say you may destroy. It says then destroy target wonder with power equal or less. Now, what happened is that because they controlled 2 or less stones, Selira had to destroy an ally. She needs to destroy something if it is possible. Now, if it's not possible, she doesn't destroy anything. But since it was possible, she had to target an ally. So there are some abilities, Luminous Scarab as well. If you attack with Luminous Scarab, it says on attack, put a null counter on target land. If for some reason you attack and they have no lands that you can target, you have to put a null counter on one of your lands because it has to resolve. There is no may there. So just be aware that some abilities, if they don't say may, you have to. And so Selira has to target something 2 or less, even if it's on your side of the board. Just a little reminder there. I lost the game because I misread Carno Titan because of time. I was not paying attention and we were up on time. Be aware of the timer rules. Orlando SCG, the first sealed event, had 1 set of rules for time, like what happens when time is finished. Houston SCG had a different set of rules. And the way that we had to play was once time is called, the active player gets 1 last action, the action that they're on, and then the opponent gets 1 last action, and then that's game. So you need to be aware that if it's getting down to time and it doesn't look like you're going to finish, a big tip is to go ahead and be aggressive and start getting those stones. Start using up all your actions. Especially if you're in 5, you're definitely not going to hit 7 within 5 minutes. But if you're in 6, you may want to, start ahead and planning out. You're probably not going to finish 7s. Additionally, regarding time, be careful when you're setting your own time. We set up a timer and had our own timer sitting on a phone next to us, but the judge called time when we had about 4 minutes left on our own timer. And what happened is that the judge officially called time start before we started playing. Let's say you had 50 minutes to play the game. It's 50 minutes from when the judge calls time start, not from when you start playing. So just be aware of that. If you have any questions, what I recommend is as the judge is coming by, or just flag the judge but keep playing and just ask, when is time? At Houston, what they did was they didn't track time remaining. They just said time will be at, for example, 12:25, 1:45. And there was a clock in the corner. So you had to kind of do the math yourself, but just be aware of how time works. If time is called, you have your last action and your opponent has one action, and that is it. And it does not matter where you're at. And I actually lost a game. I lost it by about 20 seconds, y'all. So what happened is a board state similar to this one. They had 3 stones with the tiebreaker. I had 3 stones just in general. So essentially it came down to either win the first realm or win the last realm. And I could win the last realm. I had 2 actions remaining. My opponent was totally out. All I had to do was play 1 wonder and then attack. Those are my 2 actions. That was the win. However, once my opponent passed back to me or took their last action and came back to me, right in this situation, the judge called time. And it does not matter that I could win in 10 seconds. It was my turn. Time was called. That was my last action. So even though all I had to do was play a card, get the power, whatever the power is, 1. And then opponent can't do anything, so they pass. And then I attack. That was it. That would have been the game. However, since the judge called time, the only thing I could do is play my card. Now, I could attack somewhere else, try to get the stone, but I didn't have the power in this situation. So I lost that game. I lost it by 1 action. And look, that's not on the judge. It's not on time. It's not on my opponent. It's on me. I take full responsibility for just taking those extra 10 seconds over the time of the game. So just be aware of how time works. And be aware that you need to follow the official time, not your own timekeeping. And then for my last point, I don't want to stress you out too much, but also understand that this day, the day that you go play a sealed tournament, it may be more exhausting than you're expecting. Look, I play Wonders of the First, kitchen table games, tabletop simulator games, but I'm usually only playing 2, maybe 3 games at a time. And of course, it's at home, it's from the kitchen table, we've got drinks, we've got food, we're having a good time. But at a convention, you're getting there at 9 o'clock to find parking, you're getting there to check in, then you start breaking out the cards and ripping packs at 10, then you don't play your first game till 11, then you've got 5 games in front of you, and then you're going to go in a top 8 because you're one of the players that watch my videos. You're going to make the top 8. You're going to be going possibly from game to game to game. You're not going to have many bio breaks. You may not have time to snack. I was eating protein bars in the middle of games. I was like, I'm so sorry, but I got to eat something. Thankfully, my kids packed me some protein bars. I say all that to just reiterate that this is kind of a mentally taxing, intensive game. And especially when you're doing 5 games in a row, back to back to back. I'm not saying it makes it less fun. I'm not saying it makes it less stressful. I am saying, though, that eventually you might get tired and you might start making mistakes. I say this as a longtime player of Wonders. Even the champions are making mistakes because it's a long day. I was making mistakes because it was a long day. And when you get tired, much like any game of sports, you got to rely on your fundamentals. And if you don't have your fundamentals locked in, you're going to make mistakes. And I was making rookie mistakes that I was making 4 months ago in my later games because I was just so tired. If you do make mistakes, look, don't be too hard on yourself. Like I said, you win or you learn. Don't take a loss as a loss. Take it as a learning opportunity. And for me, my biggest learning opportunity for the weekend was I need to work on my fundamentals. There's a lot of errors I was making where I could have played one card to protect another, but instead I played the other card, totally lost it. I made the mistake of not running enough Wonders. I was so focused on the awesome combos that I had with Quantum Quell and Flyers to lock down the board that I didn't realize that if they were able to take out those Flyers, I had no game plan. So don't be too hard on yourself. Have fun. I hope you make the top 8. I'd love to help you get there. If you want to practice online on TTS, find me in the Discord. My link's down below. But overall, just have fun with the game. And yeah, part of that's knowing the rules. Part of that's avoiding the mistakes. Part of that's understanding how deck registration and the reason I make all these videos. But overall, I want you to have the most fun. If you want to see more Wonders videos, like and subscribe down below. I've got a video coming out tomorrow to share all the prizes that I won and go over all the things that we got. And I didn't even finish in first place, but I got a lot of good stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. If you liked the video, like the video. If you didn't like the video, let me know by hitting that dislike button twice. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Adios.